Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. And today we've got a fun question to answer, one that we've got pretty frequently. Battleship New Jersey is reactivated at nearly twice the original cost of building the ship in the 1980s, but they don't put all of the premier weapon systems of the 80s on board. In particular, the best, probably, arguably, still the best in the world, air defense radar and fire control system is not installed on this ship. And so why is that? Many fan drawings of the Iowa-class battleships, of what they would look like if they were modernized today, or if they had been modernized in the 90s, or if they had received a more expensive modernization in the 80s, show this weapon system on board. So today we're going to talk about why the Navy did not install the AEGIS weapon system on the Iowa-class battleships. But first, a word from our sponsors. While the AEGIS weapon system protects ships from many threats, what is protecting you from having your private information sold online? Today's sponsor is DeleteMe. DeleteMe protects your personal information from data brokers that are selling your information that's easy to find on the internet to individuals and corporations who want to use your information for their benefit. My job on the battleship is highly public, which leaves me more susceptible than most to hackers and scammers and other things like that, which is why I chose DeleteMe to help remove my information from these data brokers. I chose DeleteMe because this is all that they do. Unlike other companies, they focus specifically on this and nothing else. So if, like me, you want DeleteMe to remove your name from the lists of data brokers, click on the link in the description below, or go to joindeleteme.com/battleship for 20% off any of their consumer plans. AEGIS is an incredible three-dimensional search radar that can be paired with fire control for missile defense of a fleet, anti-aircraft. It's got some absolutely incredible capabilities to this day, and the premier surface warships of the U.S. Navy, the Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, are all equipped with them. The United States has even given it to some of our most important allies to use on their air defense warfare ships. But the Iowa-class battleships don't get it. Why, when the Navy is spending so much money on these ships, would they not install that premier system? In fact, our air search radar, the SPS-49, is really third tier. The aircraft carriers are getting the SPS-48, which is a three-dimensional radar. The destroyers are getting AEGIS. And the Iowas get nothing equivalent, just a two-dimensional radar. They're really anemic when it comes to air defense warfare. And that's part of the reason why AEGIS isn't installed on these ships. They have so little indigenous air defense warfare capability. All we've got is Phalanx. Phalanx has its own onboard radar. We don't really need AEGIS to be able to target things with the Phalanx system. But that wasn't always the Navy's plan. The Navy had planned on putting more missiles on here. AEGIS, particularly in the 80s and 90s, was best paired with the Standard Missile 2, the long-range air defense missile. And as far as I know, the Iowas never had any plans to have those installed. However, there were plans to replace the Tomahawk armored box launchers with vertical launch tubes, and had that happened, these ships could have carried Standard missiles as well. The air defense missile that the Iowas were for a time planned on carrying was the Sea Sparrow. And they would have had approximately 2 8-cell box launchers, more or less on this deck right here where we're standing, one on each side of the ship. However, those missiles were never installed, and so the Iowas had nothing but a last-ditch close-in air defense system. Why were those missiles never installed? Because they were not hardened well enough to protect their sensitive electronics against the overpressure from the 16-inch guns. Notice how the curve of the superstructure here is bent in like that. That is designed to give turret number 2 the greatest possible angle of rotation so that you can do what's called the over-the-shoulder shoot, so that the Iowas can fire at targets with all 3 turrets in the greatest possible arc of fire. That puts turret 2 very close to the superstructure, and it means that unarmored systems are going to receive that complete overpressure. Remember how it breaks all the glass in the windows on the bridge if that's not rolled down. Remember when we did an over-the-shoulder shoot with Turret 3 during the Korean War, it actually caved in the gun tub of a 40mm gun on the main deck and damaged that gun and a bunch of life-saving equipment mounted on the superstructure. The Sea Sparrow missile simply couldn't take the shock of that. And for that matter, neither could the missiles that are installed on the battleship, which is why the Harpoons and the Tomahawks got pride of place amidships between the funnels and after the funnel, where they're relatively protected from those blasts. And it leaves very little room for additional missiles. Just like the Sea Sparrow couldn't survive that blast, neither could the AEGIS system. AEGIS is a panel that mounts on the side of the superstructure. So some drawings I've seen mount it like right here. You see where this armored square is 1 story above me. That is where the Navy cut out the bulkhead and installed all the electronics in our Combat Engagement Center, and they welded on armor plate over top of that, which is what you're seeing right now. Well, certainly they could have put an AEGIS panel in there on each side. It's already angled just like it is on the Arleigh Burke. Put 2 more in the aft superstructure and we're good to go, right? Now, again, the overpressure from the guns would destroy those radar panels. And so we'd spend all this money to install it, and then we wouldn't have missiles that it could direct, and it would be immediately destroyed by the 16-inch guns. So there was no point in spending the money. The Navy already had Ticonderogas and was building Arleigh Burke class cruisers and destroyers, so they didn't need to install that capability on the Iowas. The ships escorting the Iowas would have that and would take over the air defense warfare function. There is no point in equipping the Iowas with AEGIS if you're going to keep the 16-inch guns on board. And there's no point in keeping the Iowa-class battleships around if you're not going to keep the 16-inch guns on board. If you want to remove all the 16-inch turrets and replace them with missiles, build a new ship. Like, the only reason to keep the Iowas around are those 16-inch turrets. Operating a 60, 70, 80-year-old now ship is hugely expensive and not worth it unless she has some capability that no other ship has. We have, what, over 50 Arleigh Burke destroyers and still a couple of cruisers left with plenty of vertical launch tubes, but nothing with the shore bombardment capabilities of the 16-inch gun. So there's no point in replacing those with vertical launch tubes. And so AEGIS makes no sense for the Iowa-class battleships as they are optimized for surface warfare and shore bombardment. Do you have any questions about why modern weapon systems were not included in the Iowa-class battleships? Or questions about why they chose to include the modern systems that they did? Let us know in the comment section down below. We'll talk about it in a future video. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from a number of businesses and private individuals like yourselves. In particular, for today's video, we really appreciate the support of DeleteMe. Not even the AEGIS weapon system could detect you with a DeleteMe profile. If you're interested in DeleteMe, go to joindeleteme.com/battleship for 20% off all of their consumer plans. You can also support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find about the museum and the channel. Thanks for watching.